All right, guys, lines of latitude, lines of longitude. Yesterday we started answering a few questions on our map about lines of latitude and lines of longitude. We're going to clean up any misunderstanding on that today. Suppose you want to describe an exact location of the place on Earth. To help you do this, map makers invented a system of imaginary lines around the globe. Some of these lines run east and west around the globe. They are called lines of latitude. Lines of latitude are also known as parallels because they are always the same distance apart. Lines of latitude tell us how far north or south they are. The equator, a place on Earth. Lines of latitude tell us how far north and south of the equator a place on Earth is. The equator is the line of latitude. It divides the Earth into two halves. They are called the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. Because the United States lies north of the equator, it is in the northern hemisphere. So here you have the equator. Notice these lines go around the globe this way. Okay? They tell you how far up you are. So if you're on this one, you're at the equator. If you're on this one, you're 15 north. If you're on this one, you're 30 north. Wisconsin is about 45 degrees north, 44 degrees north. And so if you follow this one around over here to where the United States is, you would see we're about 45 degrees north. 45 north of what? The equator. The farther you get to the North Pole, the bigger the number that gets. The equator is starting point for the measuring. Its label is 0 degrees. Parallels north of the equator are labeled with an N. The North Pole is 90 degrees north. Parallels south of the equator are labeled with an S. The South Pole is 90 degrees south line. Lines of latitude measure between 0 and 90. North or 0 and 90 south. The closer the parallel is to the equator, the smaller its number gets of degrees. The closer it is to the poles, the greater its number of degrees. Do you live closer to the North Pole or the equator? And like I said, Wisconsin at 45, that's like right smack in the middle between the North Pole and the equator. Now, if you lived in Florida, you'd live closer to the equator. If you live in Alaska, you'd live closer to the North Pole. So those are lines of latitude. I kind of say they kind of make it look like a ladder that you're climbing up. Lines of latitude look like a ladder. The other way that you can have lines is lines of longitude. Lines of longitude tell us how far east or west we need to go to locate a place. Look at this map. It shows lines circling the Earth. Lines of longitude run north and south between the north and south poles and are called meridians. Say meridians. Unlike lines of latitude, meridians are not parallel to each other. All meridians meet at the North Pole. So you notice they come closer. Farther apart in the middle, closer at the poles. All meridians meet at the North Pole and the South Pole. The distance between the meridians is greater at the equator. The distance shrinks as you move towards the poles. Can you find the lines that is labeled prime meridian? It's right here. It goes through Africa and part of Europe. This imaginary line divides the world into the eastern and the western hemispheres. Because the United States lies west of the prime meridian, it is in the western hemisphere. The longitude of the prime meridian is 0. Lines of longitude west of the prime meridian are labeled W, and lines of longitude of the prime meridian to the east of the prime meridian are labeled east. You see them going out 15 west, 30, 45, 15 east, 30, 45. Lines of longitude measure between 0 and 180. The closer a meridian is to the prime meridian, the smaller number of degrees. The further from the prime meridian, the greater the number of degrees. So today we took care of lines of latitude. They step like a ladder, but they measure north and south. Lines of longitude are long. They go around the Earth traveling up and down, but they measure east and west. So that's all the farther today that we want to read. Now you got to go back to your Monday folder, and you got to grab out your Monday, Tuesday worksheet and map. Okay, so we're doing it on both days, but it's going to stay in the Monday folder. We did the first 5 yesterday. Let's flip over to the back side and see if we can't figure out the last 5. Again, we're going to use that map to help us on page 24. Draw an X at 45 degrees north and 120 degrees west longitude. Label the name of the state you are. 45 and 120. 25, 30, 35, 40. Okay, 45 is way up here. It's going to cut through to right here. And 45 and 120. So here's 120. 45, 120 is going to meet right about here. So that's the state of Oregon. Very good. Here. Oregon. So I'll put that in the Oregon on this state. Oregon. That would give us 6. Number 7. Draw an X on 35 and 110. 35. Here's 35. And here's 115, 110. 35, 110. Boy, that's going to be pretty close to those corner of states there. And I think if we look carefully at the 35, we're going to be in Arizona. So put it on Arizona here. This is called the Four Corners because that's exactly where 4 states meet. Nowhere else in our country does all 4 corners come together like that. So we're in Arizona for number 7. Number 7. Number 8, it says draw a heavy line along the entire 115th meridian of longitude. Label the names of the 4 United States the meridian passes through. So we're looking for the 115, 130, 125, 120, 115, 115. So we're going to try to draw that. Comes in here by Mexico, goes through California, goes through Nevada, goes through Idaho, and goes through Montana. So let's go ahead and label those there now. Trying to write a little smaller so that I could fit it in without ruining Nevada. And Montana. Someday I hope to go visit my relatives in Montana and hunt big elk. Montana. All right, so we got California, Nevada, Idaho, and Montana, and that's 115 degrees west longitude. Okay? All right. Number 9, draw an X at 30 degrees north latitude and 95 degrees west longitude. So 95, 85, 90, 95 is right here, and 30. 30, 95. Well, good grief. We are down south in Texas. Everything is bigger in Texas. And I spelled it wrong. T-E-X-A-S. Texas. Number 10. Draw an X at 35 degrees latitude and 80 degrees west longitude. Label the name of the state. 35 degrees, 25, 30, 35 degrees, and 80 west. Right here, that'd be North Carolina, the North Carolina Tar Heels, my brother's favorite basketball team. That's North Carolina. We're going to hear a lot about North Carolina and Virginia here and all these waterways here when we study Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad. North Carolina right here. And that'd be number 10. Now we've completely accomplished this assignment together. I hope that you watch all the video and the complete video. Your map should look like this when you're all done. It should be labeled like that. It should be an easy A+ if you followed along. You got to have your name on it. It goes in page 8. Put page 7 on top of it, and then it goes back in Monday's folder. Back in order in Monday's folder where you found it. Okay? All right, guys. Congratulations. We'll see you tomorrow.